Currently, it is 74 degrees here on the campus of St. Louis Community College at Florissant Valley. I'm Jell with your noon news update. Polls are open statewide for primary election day. Voters will determine party nominees for federal, state, and county offices for the general election on November 6th. They're also being asked to weigh in on the state's right-to-work law. The polls close at 7 p.m. The St. Louis chapter of the A. Philip Randolph Institute is offering free rides for those who want to vote. Spokesman Keith Robinson says inadequate transportation shouldn't keep people from having their voices heard. To schedule a ride, call 314-562-0411. That's 314-562-0411. And the search continues for a man that may be linked to the death of two people in Ferguson. Police are calling Derek Antoine Barber a person of interest. Investigators say Jeannie Nicole Miller was granted an order of protection against Barber in May. Miller and another man identified as Eric Johnson were shot and killed Saturday night after someone forced their way into her home. And former Cardinal Rick Ankiel is planning to return to pro baseball. He announced on Fox Sports Midwest yesterday that he's going to attempt a comeback in 2019 as a relief pitcher. Ankiel debuted in Major League Baseball with the Cardinals in 1999 as a pitcher. After leaving the team, he went on to play for the Royals, Braves, Nationals, Astros, and Mets before retiring in 2013. On to the weather. Today, we have a high of 83, low of 72, and thunderstorms in the evening, and apparently the morning. Tomorrow, it will be partly cloudy, high of 87, low of 71. Thursday, partly cloudy, high of 91, low of 71. Friday, mostly sunny, high of 92, low of 70. And Saturday, mostly sunny, high of 86, low of 69. Currently, it is 74 degrees here at KCFV. I'm Jell, and this has been your noon news update. But please stay tuned, because after a short break, we will be back with GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Anyway, until then, here is Chosen by Divide the Empire here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. That was Chosen by Divide the Empire here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and this is GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Although, with the next semester starting up soonish, I don't know the exact date, but with the next semester starting up, more than likely, the date and time on the show might change, so please stay tuned to the GameBabble YouTube channel. I will announce any changes in date and time there. Also, there's the fact that I am currently attempting to get an externship at the St. Louis Zoo. Fingers crossed that that goes well. Went in for an interview this weekend. Hoping I get in. Hoping I get lucky with that, because that seems like it could be an interesting career path. But until then, it's time for GameBabble Live, and we love to kick the show off with what the new game releases are for this week, what's coming out next week, and what anime are in theaters. So, this week, PlayStation 4 gets a whole bunch of DLC for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. That's Izayoi Mitsuru Kirijo, Merkava, Mai Natsume, Akihiko Sanada, Yuzuriha, Nine the Phantom, Labris, and Mika have all been released for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle. Moving on, though, we've also got Dead Cells coming out, Flipping Death, H1Z1 Battle Royale, Madden NFL 19 Hall of Fame Edition, Overcooked 2, Too Many Cooks, Slamland, Tetris Escape, City of the Shroud, Ni no Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom Adventure Pack, Late Shift, Madden NFL 19, I guess the not-so Hall of Fame edition, Runbow Deluxe Edition, and We Happy Few. Xbox One, meanwhile, is getting Dead Cells, Defenders of Ekron Definitive Edition, Hyper Universe, Madden NFL 19 Hall of Fame Edition, Overcooked 2, Too Many Cooks, Tetris Escape, City of the Shroud, Madden NFL 19 Not So Hall of Fame Edition, Terra Tech, and We Happy Few. Nintendo Switch is getting Loot Monkey, Bling Palace, Dead Cells, Flipping Death, In Between, Minecraft Story Mode Season 2, the Telltale series, Overcooked 2, Too Many Cooks, Slain, Back from Hell, Slamland, Super Blackjack Battle 2 Turbo Edition, The Card Warriors, Toby, The Secret Mine, Blobcat, Megaton Rainfall, Minute, Okami HD, Shut-Eye, Subara City, The Amazing Shinsengumi, Heroes in Love, Unexplored Unlocked Edition, Mini Metro, Nightmares from the Deep 2, Siren's Call, Runbow Deluxe Edition, Tetris Escape, and Tiny Hands Adventures. And why, yes, looks like The Amazing Shinsengumi Heroes in Love might be a dating sim for the ladies, because that is a lot of very pretty samurai men, and like one girl in the middle of them. So I think I can guess the genre on this one. So that's out there. Moving on, PlayStation Vita is not getting anything, nor is the 3DS. Wow. Yeah, Vita's getting Super Life of Pixel on the 22nd, and the 3DS isn't getting anything until September 7th with Yokai Watch Blasters. So, yeah, we'll just cross those off the list. What's coming out next week? Well, next week on PlayStation 4, we've got Death's Gambit, Phantom Doctrine, Space Hulk Ascension, Terra Tech, The Walking Dead, The Telltale series, The Final Season, Episode 1, Warhammer 40k, Deathwatch, State of Mind, Hero Defense, All-Star Fruit Racing, Brawlout. Wait, hold on. Might have jumped the gun there. Yeah, nope, that's week after next for All-Star Fruit Racing. Ends at Heroes Defense. So, State of Mind, Hero Defense, that's it for PlayStation 4. Xbox One, what are you getting next week? Next week, Xbox One is getting Earhart, Tales of Broken Wings, Phantom Doctrine, The Walking Dead, The Telltale series, The Final Season, Episode 1, Ferns Gate, Hero Defense, State of Mind, and Drunk Fu, Wasted Masters, Polygod, and Treadnoughts. Meanwhile, the Nintendo Switch will be getting its hands on 2064 Read-Only Memories Integral, Cosmic Star Heroine, Tennis World Tour, The Coma Recruit, Out of the Box. Hey, there you are! Penguin Coon Wars is next week. And State of Mind, along with Castle Storm, Johnny Turbo's Arcade Nitro Ball, Manual Samuel, Pick-a-Pix, Large Puzzles 8, Mixed Puzzles 8, and Small Puzzles 8, Red's Kingdom, and Roboto, along with Polygod and Treadnoughts. So that wraps up our game releases for this week and next week. What about anime in theaters? Well, okay, so that already happened. So, let's see. We've got Grave of the Fireflies will be in theaters August 12th, dubbed, August 13th, subbed, and August 15th, dubbed. We got a new one on the list, though. Night is Short, Walk On, Girl, will be August 21st subbed and August 22nd subbed. It looks very artsy and funky, so that's the thing. And also, Laughing Under the Clouds Gaiden, Part 1 and Part 2 double feature will be August 24th to September 15th. See local theater for specific dates. So that wraps up our new game releases for this week and next week and what anime are in theaters. That means it's time to take that short break and come back with more GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. But until then, here's when Saturday becomes Sunday here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. That was When Saturday Becomes Sunday by Jay Boozer here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Woo! Almost forgot days. What is time? How does time work? Anyways, so, as we here at GameBabble Live like to pride ourselves as being your number one source of information for Penguin Coon Wars, turns out that the release date is August 15th for Switch and August 30th for PS4 in North America and Europe. I'm interested to see what the final price tag is, because unlike Japan, where it was digital only, we're actually getting a boxed release of it. And then there's like a special Day 1 edition boxed release, and that costs like twice as much as the Japanese digital game. So I'm like, okay, if I just bought it digitally again, how much would it be? Like, is it going to be about the same price, or are you actually, like, severely jacking up the price for the US release? Little concerned about that. Mind you, it might be kind of worth it. There's a good amount of content in there from what I've played, so that's the thing. Anyway, do you like fighting games? I like fighting games because, wow, what an EVO. EVO 2018 happened this past weekend. I would definitely say the most exciting thing, number one, the most exciting thing was the side tournaments, because there were all sorts of crazy games being played there, including like Samurai Showdown 2, Garou Mark of the Wolves, and even Sailor Moon S, which that was a thing that really made me happy, was the fact that both Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z were represented at EVO 2018. I would say the hypest tournament was, of course, Dragon Ball FighterZ. The rivalry between Sonic Fox and Goichi is fantastic. It was great seeing them play at such high levels, and those were some matches that are going to go down in history, because Goichi actually managed to summon Shenron towards the end of the match. He's fighting, which, that was an interesting thing. In Dragon Ball FighterZ, you can summon the Eternal Dragon. Every time you complete a auto combo, you collect a Dragon Ball, and if you have all 7 Dragon Balls and have 7 Super Meters, then doing an auto combo will summon Shenron, and then you can wish back wish back a team member, get your health recovered, a couple other things. And early on, people thought that mechanic was going to be completely broken. They were like, it's way too easy to summon Shenron, this is going to break the game. They thought it would be a really bad mechanic. But once everyone played online, they were like, oh yeah, no, you're never going to pull this off because you need 7 meters. I mean, as it is, getting the 7 auto combos is actually kind of tricky in a match. But getting 7 meters is even harder because there's so many things to use your meters on in Dragon Ball FighterZ. But, so yeah, it pretty much never happened. It pretty much never happens. So it was actually pretty exciting when 2 of the best Dragon Ball FighterZ players are playing. One of them is losing, manages to summon Shenron, wish his life back, and still lose, because Sonic Fox was on a roll. That said, it was quite controversial, because after sending Goichi to the loser's bracket, and he had to fight his way back up, in the Goichi versus Sonic Fox match, Sonic Fox actually asked to switch seats. He wanted to be on the player 1 side. Which, cripes, I don't think anyone's complained about that in ages. It's like, dude, you're the best Dragon Ball FighterZ player in the world, one of the top 2, and you're asking to be on the player 1 side, but it wasn't against the rules. They allowed it, and he wound up winning. Some people are saying that it was a strategy to throw Goichi off his game, because Goichi was quite steamed, and so it was like, hey, if I pull this tomfoolery and have us take this excessively lengthy break, it'll cool us down, and I'll be able to, and it'll throw Goichi off his game. A lot of people are saying stuff like that, but regardless, I still respect Sonic Fox's victory because he was using a very unusual team. A lot of the teams in Dragon Ball FighterZ were Cell, Vegeta, and either Bardock or Kid Buu. Cell because he's one of the best, most useful characters in the game. Vegeta because he is the best assist in the game. And then, you've got a free spot. But Sonic Fox, he was like, nah. He brought in Android 17 and fused Zamasu. Now, those are 2 I forget what his 3rd pick was, actually. I think it might have been Vegeta because, it's a really good assist. But those are interesting picks because Android 17 was regarded as being really, really good for a while. He's an interesting character because he's a grappler, and he got nerfed into the ground, and a lot of people that were maining 17 abandoned him. But Sonic Fox stuck with him. Fused Zamasu, though, was one of the most recent DLC releases, so not a lot of people have had time to mess with Fused Zamasu. He's been out for a good couple weeks, possibly a month, something like that. So it's not like they haven't had any time to practice, but he's the newest character on the block, and Sonic Fox is really good at learning really, really fast. And so he clearly used that to his advantage to take this character that people had the least experience fighting, learn him, and be able to pull out ahead. Either way, those two, they tend to show up at the top of every Dragon Ball FighterZ tournament. It was a bold rivalry, absolutely fantastic. Great to see Sonic Fox win. I always pull for that guy because I like the fact that he plays in a lot of different fighting games. He's really good at a lot of different fighting games, and he always shows that he knows his stuff. And yeah, that was a fantastic match. I was super happy to see that, and I was happy to see someone use someone different. The best part, though, of the Dragon Ball FighterZ tournament, though, was the crowd. Every time Cell was in the intro powering up, the entire audience screamed along with him, and the best was when the Yamcha player showed up. Because there's like one or two guys that are showing that Yamcha is competitively viable, which is a thing I've been saying for a long while now. He's a great rushdown character. But yeah, no one uses Yamcha, and there's like two guys bringing him back, and everyone's thrown off their game because no one uses Yamcha. And whenever Yamcha did his Neo Wolf Fang Fist, the entire audience howled. It was great. That was the hypest. The least hype, however, would have to be the end of Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, which I think everyone will be glad to see that game go. And I don't mean that as a slight against Smash players, but famously, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, the top three were all Bayonettas, and when that was confirmed, the audience walked out. And some people are like, yo, that's really disrespectful and crappy of you to walk out on that. You know, we've had top-tier mirror matches before in other fighting games, and we sat through it. But Bayonetta is a particularly dicey subject in the Smash community, because she is the most broken character in Smash history. See, Bayonetta is a combo-centric character in a game that generally doesn't have combos. She can also slow down time by dodging you. She has, good range on her attacks. Everything about her is great. She has crazy recovery, but the combos are the problem because she can actually turn Smash, of all things, into a one-touch game. If she touches you, she can beat you. Because Bayonetta has a combo that picks you up, carries you off screen, and knocks you out without her ever having to smash. Now, they did release a balance patch which nerfed Bayonetta somewhat, but clearly not enough. And this was the big problem, was that Nintendo abandoned the Wii U too quickly. They did not fix this gigantic glaring issue. They introduced this character, they did one balance patch, and they were like, it's fine. And as such, Bayonetta has become horribly overpowered. A lot of people wanted her banned from EVO, but that didn't happen because people don't realize how bad the Bayonetta situation is. That's the problem. If it was just Bayonetta without the ability to carry people off screen, it would be fine. But the fact that Bayonetta, you don't have to have any damage percentage. If she touches you, she can just pick you up and carry you off screen with her combo. And on top of the fact that even without that, she's ludicrously good. If she had no combo potential, Bayonetta would still be a very good character. But with that combo, it turns the entire match into a joke. And so people walked out on that one. and people are debating if that was the right thing to do or not. It's a good question. Don't know. Do not know. Anyway, time for us to take another quick break. So here is Breaking Out by Between the Rivers here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more GameBabble. That was I Do That by Young Hayes here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., at least until we get the new schedules for when the new students come in for the fall semester. See you here, everyone. Anyway, so, like I said, EVO 2018 was this past weekend. Good time. Definitely watch the Dragon Ball FighterZ Top 8. It was fantastic. But, alongside this came, well, announcements for new characters for pretty much every single fighting game currently on the market. So where do we begin? How about Fighting EX Layer, the little fighting game that could? It's amazing how much people are pulling for this game, really trying to help it become something bigger, and I'm happy to see so much progress with it. First and foremost, Pullumperna and Volcano Rosso will be available in late August, early September, sometime in that zone. They appear to be mostly done. They've put up some gameplay footage of the two of them fighting in the new stage they've got, and they should be available supposedly for free. Towards the towards the end of the month. Moving on, though, they have previewed Arya and Sharon. They have been teased. Their character models are done, along with an arcade version of Fighting EX Layer for the Taito Type X arcade hardware. Apparently, Taito themselves actually went up to Arika, the developers of Fighting EX Layer, and said, hey, you guys, you got a really nice game here. Why isn't this in arcades? They're like, well, we don't have the money to do anything. They're like, well, we'll get you hooked up. But perhaps the biggest surprise is that Terry Bogard will be coming to Fighting EX Layer. That's right, we're Fatal Fury EX now. That came pretty much out of nowhere, almost as out of nowhere as Terry Bogard also being announced for SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy, SNK's upcoming all-women fighting game. You're going to say, wait a second, but Terry Bogard isn't a girl. No one escapes Rule 63, my friend. No one. And I will say, SNK Heroines Tag Team Frenzy looks very interesting. At first I was very iffy on it, but actually seeing it in action, I'm seeing some very interesting looking combos, and maybe it will be kind of fun with its weird mechanics, because the way they have it set up is it's going to be a simplified fighter, where, special moves will just be, direction plus button, but there will be a meter limiting how many special moves you can do, and that meter gets bigger as your health drains. So the less HP you have, the more special moves you can do in a row. So that'll be kind of interesting. Moving on, Sagat and G are both out for Street Fighter V. No one knows what to make of G. He looks like Greg from Bloody Roar. A lot of people are assuming that he's somehow related to Q, and he has declared himself president of the world and is kinda, sorta Abraham Lincoln? Question mark? G is weird. I really question a lot of these new characters for Street Fighter V. And while we're on that subject, why haven't they released the rest of Bison's dolls? Seriously, they released Falke, but not the dolls that are already in the game? Come on, flesh them out. Finish those characters out. That's something I actually want to play as. In a non-hacking the game sort of way. Whatever. Anyway, Tekken 7 has announced that Anna Williams and Lei will be coming to Tekken 7, along with Negan from The Walking Dead? Yeah, we're going to have a Walking Dead guest character in Tekken 7. Negan is coming to Tekken 7. I'll watch The Walking Dead. I don't know anything about it, but okay. Should have been Terry Bogard, because you should just put Terry in everything. Moving on. Soul Calibur 6 showed Sung Mina and Astaroth, so they are well on their way. And Dragon Ball FighterZ showed Base Goku and Base Vegeta. We've heard about that. And at EVO, they showed Cooler, who will be in his super cool second form. It's not going to be Metal Cooler. It's not going to be first form Cooler. It's going to be the good Cooler. So that's something we've known about since Dragon Ball FighterZ first launched. Data miners found that, and that means we're just waiting on Android 17. But Namco Bandai has said there will be more content for Dragon Ball FighterZ, because of course there will be. It's doing great, and why would you even bother making a new one? Just make more content for this one. Moving on, Dead or Alive 6 has shown a new character named Diego, who is very much like Miguel from Tekken, and also, Rig is confirmed to return, and they are teasing Hitomi and Lei Feng. I should hope so. I mean, I've said it more than a couple times. I'm severely concerned about Dead or Alive 6. I do not have a lot of hope for it, and I'm afraid that it's basically going to be like Dead or Alive 5 with less content. Thankfully, the other night I was just checking, and GameFly is still a thing. They're still in business. I will be getting a GameFly subscription just to review Dead or Alive 6. I am not buying that game unless they do something to really impress me. And it is going to take a monumental effort to impress me with Dead or Alive 6. It looks nice, but I don't like the direction they're going with this game. I am very concerned about it, and I really do think it's going to just be crap, and I'll just stick with Dead or Alive 5. Then again, now that I can play PS1 games online, I don't even need to deal with that. I'll just play some Bloody Roar. Play a real good 3D fighter, because trust me, Bloody Roar is sorely underrated. We'll talk about that later sometime. Anyway, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle showed the rest of the DLC characters. Apparently not everyone is in the game yet. I thought everyone from all of those games was going to be in, but there's still a few missing. But yeah, and of course they came out the other day. But at the end of the Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle trailer, they teased that a new franchise will be joining the fray. So more DLC is coming, and the new franchise is represented by a pink square. This has people speculating on one of two things. Either A, it's Arcana Heart, which Arc Systems Works helped with Arcana Heart 3, or B, it's Senran Kagura. Now, why would you think Senran Kagura? Well, early on, people were, of course, data mining Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, and they found in the list of announcer voices the names Asuka and Yumi, who are Senran Kagura characters. And oh egad, I hope it's more than just those two. It'll probably just be those two. But I'd like it to be more. I mean, come on, at least the heads of the 4 different factions. Get Homura in there. But, yeah, so there's a chance that Senran Kagura will be joining Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle. I'm very curious to see how that looks. And there is talk of a new Guilty Gear being in the works. And we will see how that turns out. Now, you're probably going to say, but what about Smash? Was anything for Smash Ultimate shown at EVO 2018, where they had 2 Smash games on the main stage? The answer, no, because Nintendo likes to do their own thing, and they like to have the stage all to themselves. Instead, we're getting a Nintendo Direct for Smash tomorrow. So probably, I think that's in the morning. It'll be early. You'll have to tune in for that, and then Nintendo will announce something. I can almost guarantee they'll show a new character. I'm very curious to see what character it is. I can't wait to see how the Smash Direct goes. So yeah, that is where we're at with that. Tons of fighting game announcements. Good times for all. And you know what, while we're on the fighting game roll, Kamen Rider Climax Scramble ZO is coming to Asia with English subtitles. So that'll be nice. That is the next Kamen Rider fighting game, which have generally been handled by Aiding, the makers of Bloody Roar. And as such, I expect this one to be as well. It'll be coming to Nintendo Switch. Obviously, no US release, but we'll be able to get it in English by importing it from Asia. I am excited to see how that turns out, because I like Aiding. I will say the last one, Kamen Rider Climax Heroes, was not so hot, but we'll see how Climax Scramble ZO turns out. Maybe it'll be better. So yeah, that is definitely where we are at with that. You know what? Since we mentioned, by the way, Dragon Ball FighterZ is getting an open beta on Nintendo Switch. If you would like to see how the Switch version plays, that will be August 9th to August the 11th. So, that's a thing. And since we were just talking about Senran Kagura, may as well lay on some Senran Kagura news. First and foremost, Senran Kagura is getting a second anime. It is called Shinobi Master Tokyo Yoma Chapter. And it looks to be a mix of, like, all the recent Senran Kagura stuff, because Senran Kagura got an anime before, and it was pretty much just a retelling of the first game, except a little more lighthearted than the first game. It was a lot like that. This one looks to be a mix of a bunch of things. I'm seeing characters from the mobile games. I'm definitely seeing elements of Deep Crimson. And of course, Yumi is featured front and center, and she's from Gessen, and that's Shinobi Versus. So are they actually going to try to cram all the recent Senran Kagura games together? That's like 6 different games? Or are they... I don't know what they're doing with it. But hey, Senran Kagura's getting new anime. Looks like that will be in October. Moving on, Senran Kagura 7, the next mainline entry, is in development, but way too early for gameplay. They've shown off Asuka's character model. Looks like the character models are getting more detailed, and I'm very excited to see what they do with this, because, of course, Senran Kagura is a much bigger, more popular series than it used to be. And moving on from that, Senran Kagura Peach Ball was, they've finally shown gameplay of that, and wow! That wasn't what I was expecting. Peach Ball is a, pinball game for the Nintendo Switch, and I was just expecting, like, still images of the girl with the ball bouncing. No. The presentation on Senran Kagura Peach Ball is very, very flashy and incredibly lewd. And, yeah, lewd enough that YouTube pulled the live stream. It was an official Senran Kagura live stream, and in the middle of the stream, YouTube actually shut it down. If you want to see the whole thing, it's on Nico Nico Doga. So, you go to the Japanese streaming service, it's still there. But YouTube cut the stream. It's like, whew! Senran Kagura! And yes, it is a very flashy looking pinball game. I'm very impressed with what they've done with it, because I did not expect pinball to be that flashy or that lewd. Very, very lewd. But then again, I should always expect that when it comes to Senran Kagura. That's what they do. Anyway, time for us to take a short break. When we come back, we will have more video game news and information for you here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. But until then, here is Feel It in the Air by Duck here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and please stay tuned for more. That was Bigger Than You by 2 Chainz featuring Drake and Quavo here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., at least until we get another time change, but that's fine, because you can find out whenever the next date and time winds up being on the GameBabble YouTube channel. That's still a thing. I'll keep you updated there, and yeah, I need to get my next episode done. Anyway, moving right along, thank you so much for joining me. Before the break, we were talking about EVO 2018, which was this past weekend, and all of the big fighting game announcements that we had there. Now we are moving on to, a bunch of random crap. Let's see, where do we begin? How about, let's start with something good. Yakuza 0 is apparently out on PC now, so if you've never played a Yakuza game, because they've always been PlayStation exclusive, now is the time to finally get a chance to experience that. Yakuza 0 is apparently out on Steam. They just released a patch to fix some kind of big bug with it, so now you can finally play the games and find out what everyone is talking about, because the Yakuza games are pretty darn great. Moving on, though, to stupid crap. The Spyro Reignited trilogy is, of course, on the horizon. However, turns out only the first game will be on the disc. Once you get your hands on that disc, you pop it in, and it will download the second and third games. Now, I know some people are going to say that doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but to a lot of people it is. A lot of people want to buy physical versions of the game to have a physical version of the game, a solid, immutable, hard copy of the game. And I know, well, it's 2018, and there's so many patches and so many things change that having physical media doesn't really matter. Yeah, and that should probably terrify you a lot more than it does. It's kind of messed up, especially from a video game preservation standpoint. But the Spyro Reignited trilogy, there's just something kind of messed up about selling a trilogy and only one game actually being on the disc, and you have to download the other two, especially because that definitely means it's going to take up a hefty chunk of hard drive space, considering 2 out of 3 games have to be downloaded as a patch. That also means that every time you delete the Spyro Reignited trilogy from your hard drive in order to save space, when you pop it back in, you're going to need to re-download games 2 and 3. It's a little bit of a mess, to say the least. But, it's even more of a mess is IGN stealing reviews. Yeah, that's right. The other night, turned out that IGN stole their Dead Cells review from some small YouTube channel called Boomstick Gaming. However, Boomstick Gaming was, so in love with Dead Cells, because they apparently, backed it on Kickstarter and stuff, which was why he was able to do his review early. Wish I could have done that. The guy who runs Boomstick Gaming, he checked out IGN's review, and he said, hey, this seems awfully familiar. And he put up a video comparing his review versus IGN's review side by side. And, yeah, at first it doesn't seem too bad, and you're like, well, they're both just describing the game, I mean, anyone would say this, but then the further you get into the review, the more you're like, you're just changing a few words. You're not only saying the exact same thing, you're saying it in almost the exact same way, in the exact same order. You're just swapping a few words around. This is blatant plagiarism. And this wasn't just some random freelancer either. This was let's see, the official Nintendo editor for IGN, who was caught stealing this review. Now, IGN has responded swiftly and have taken down the review, and they are investigating it. So, good on them on that one. But yeah, no, it seriously looks like IGN just stole their review wholesale from a random YouTuber, copying it almost word for word in very much the exact same structure. Like, the further you get into the review, the more they just start stealing. Like, it gets pretty okay in the middle, and then towards the end, it's just, you're just stealing this word for word now. So, that's pretty striking, if you ask me. Because, yeah, no, I mean, you can sit there and go, oh, well, they're just describing the game, but I guarantee you can find other people's Dead Cell reviews that don't sound anywhere near as identical as the IGN review to Boomstick Gaming's review. And, of course, now people are like, we need to keep an eye on this guy. Maybe he's done this before. You know, it's be kind of random for it to just be this one-off thing that happened this one time. And this could get interesting. Of course, there's a bunch of people still defending the IGN guy and saying, well, he's just describing the game. But again, way too suspicious. That review is way too close. I am not giving IGN the benefit of the doubt there. That is for darn sure. And I guess last for our stupid crap segment, Mega Man Fully Charged's first 10 episodes are now online on Cartoon Network's YouTube page. If you live in the United States of America, you can view them and be horribly disappointed. I admit, I haven't watched them, and I have very little intent to watch them. I watched the preview, and I was like, okay, Fireman's design looks good. Everything else is an increasing level of bad. Especially Minibot. Why is Minibot a thing? Because Mega Man has a little robot in his head. It looks like the PS4 Playroom robot. Except, of course, he's snarky and a funny sidekick. Moving on. So, I guess this counts as stupid news. Chrono Trigger on Steam is getting its final patch. The game now has illustrations and an ending viewer and key rebinding and a bunch of other things. I do not know if this makes it as good as the Super Nintendo original or better, or how it compares to the DS release, because I didn't bother buying it on Steam, but the Steam release should now at least be a functional version of the game. This has taken half a year, which is something that never should have happened in the first place. For those of you unfamiliar, Chrono Trigger, legendary freaking RPG from the Super Nintendo era. It has been ported to a couple different systems, including cell phones. And Square Enix has a bad tendency to take the games that they released on cell phones a year ago and then sloppily porting them to other systems, in this case PCs on Steam. A lot of their Steam releases have just been sloppy ports of their cell phone games. The problem was, while there have been tons of sloppy cell phone ports, the backlash against Chrono Trigger was so big and loud that Square Enix had to take notice. This is because Chrono Trigger is widely regarded as one of the greatest RPGs of all time. People love Chrono Trigger, and people have been sitting there banding together saying they need to make a new Chrono game, they need to make a sequel to this, we need more Chrono Trigger, remake Chrono Trigger, do something big with Chrono Trigger, because it is such a good game. And the fact that Square Enix released the game on Steam and it was worse than the Super Nintendo original was a big problem. Because people can just illegally download a ROM and an emulator and just run the game on PC that way, like they have been for years. When you release a game on Steam and it's like, oh, this is a big fancy new version, you expect it to have some improvements. But fans just, they looked at it and they said, no, this is abysmal. There were, I don't even know how many screw-ups there were because I didn't play it and they were too numerous. I remember the interface was terrible, the font was terrible, the sprites were all smudgy and blurry, there was no key rebinding. There were a lot of issues. Like, I think actually the added anime cutscenes from the PlayStation version actually didn't run right. So, yeah. Chrono Trigger on PC was a freaking joke, and everyone said, how could you screw this up? You literally would have pissed us off less if you just released an emulator and a ROM of the game. And it got Square Enix to say, oh, whoopsie, we'll patch that, and after half a year, they have they've patched the game quite a bit, and now its final patch is coming out. I would love to know if this officially makes it good or not. Actually, speaking of RPGs, though, hey, and Square Enix, the Rathalos from Monster Hunter is coming to Final Fantasy XIV today. As part of the Monster Hunter collaboration, you've got all sorts of Monster Hunter goodies and stuff, and there's Final Fantasy goodies in Monster Hunter World. So that's definitely a thing to check out. Quite the big event. Let me see if I can find anything on how good or bad the Chrono Trigger on PC is now. Let's see, can I find anything? I figure that might be good. I got pushed down quite a ways. There we go. Chrono Trigger on PC. What are people saying? Okay, we don't really have an answer to that. But still, that is a thing. By the way, apparently there's a Sonic the Hedgehog CG movie in the works. And it's going to take place in the fictional town of Green Hills, because of course it is. That's a thing. I don't know. I'm a little iffy on that one. Anyway, moving on. There is the new Pokemon game, the one that isn't Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee, the actually new one for the Nintendo Switch, will be coming in late 2019. That is the official word from Nintendo. That's a thing. So yeah. That'll certainly be interesting. I guess another thing to move on to. By the way, Windjammers will be hitting the Switch this year. That's good. Should have done that earlier. Whatever. Good to hear Windjammers is hitting Switch. Windjammers is a perfect game for Switch. It's the greatest game of Pong ever made. Anyway. Let's see. How about Warriors Orochi 4? This is some interesting news. Turns out that the next Warriors Orochi game will give you bonuses, like bonus costumes and stuff, if you have save data from Warriors Orochi 3 and or Dynasty Warriors 9. I can't blame you for not having any data from 9. But, I've played Warriors Orochi 3, and it's good to hear they're going to give us some kind of bonus for that. Also, Warriors Orochi 4 has been steadily revealing more of its new characters, which are, of course, gods from various pantheons, because that's the whole shtick with this one, is that people have these, people are going to have super modes. It's not going to have as many crossover titles. It's pretty much just going to be Dynasty Warriors and Samurai Warriors versus the gods. But, they have shown Zeus, Athena, and Perseus so far, and now Ares and Odin have been revealed. Who knows who could appear next? So that's what's going on with Warriors Orochi 4. Again, that game is going to have online co-op as well as local split-screen co-op. Thank freaking goodness. Okay, look. On my channel, I was about to start this series called The Warriors Report, where I was going to talk about these different Dynasty Warriors games as they came out, and I almost immediately burned out on it as soon as I started it, because shortly after that, Koei Tecmo stopped doing split screen. And that's always been a major selling point for the Warriors games for me, and when they stopped doing split screen, it made me say, hey, what the heck, especially because every single game that they released that didn't have split screen was one I wanted split screen for. I really wanted split screen for Dragon Quest Heroes. I really wanted split screen for Berserk Band of the Hawk. Because I have friends who really wanted to co-op those games with me, and we couldn't. I really wanted split screen for Warriors All-Stars. And for all those games, they just kept snubbing me on the split screen. And now, finally, they're bringing it back after people complaining for a while, and that makes me very happy because I do consider local split screen play to be one of the major selling points of Dynasty Warriors. So, good to have that back. Let's see. Anything else here that I think I should bring up? No, we'll save that for after the break. Because, yeah, there have been a bunch of games out of China announced, which definitely have me raising an eyebrow. And then recently, Border Break and Gundam Battle Operation 2 have both been released on Japanese PSN. And I got a chance to play both of them last night, just before passing out. Finally got my Japanese account back. So I'll be able to give you a quick rundown of how those two look in the off chance you want to try to give one of them a shot. Until then, though, here is Dallas by Whisperwall, here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening, and stay tuned for more Game. That was Scary Love by The Neighborhood, here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Dell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Although the time might be changing because it is almost time for the fall semester to start here at Florissant Valley Community College, and that means I'm going to have to take a backseat to any of the actual students who would like to be on the radio. On top of the fact that I'm really keeping my fingers crossed for a externship at the St. Louis Zoo. We'll see how that goes. I'll keep you all posted on the GameBabble YouTube channel, though. Anyway, so last week, the big China Joy event went down. That's a big, thing in China. I don't know a lot about the Chinese tech industry, but I do know a whole bunch of games were shown there, and a bunch of them were actually for PlayStation VR, because China is really going all in on VR. I've talked about this in the past, but it makes sense. China hasn't really been a major player in the global gaming industry. They've been very insular. They've made a lot of games of questionable legality at times. Lots of stolen content and stuff. And recently, China's really been like, hey, they're kind of in an interesting economic boom period right now, and they're trying to get their foot in the door in the video game industry and start making some games that could be popular globally. Good on them, because of course every country's games have a unique feel to them. I look forward to seeing what they do. The problem, though, is that the video game industry right now is really hard to get into. It's in the weirdest point. Like, what's really getting a lot of attention are AAA games, which are ludicrously expensive to make, and then random breakout hit indie games. And China just doesn't quite know where to fit in there. And VR is a good spot because, of course, no one's really developing games for VR. It's a lot of indie developers, very few big companies. That gives China an in, and so they're really trying to see if they can make, like, the next big hit VR game that really turns some heads. And, I'll give them credit. The Pupil Wandering was really nice. Anyway, at China Joy, one of the first games they showed off was Kill X, which They released a demo for that for the PlayStation VR a while back. I've played it. It's a first-person shooter where you're going through dark caves shooting zombies. And it was one of the first-person shooters that was able to be played on the PlayStation VR, so people really liked it. It looks like they are fleshing that the heck out. Like, it is going to be way more than just walking through tunnels shooting zombies. I'm seeing lots of cutscenes, lots of characters, some puzzle solving. I'm seeing some really good stuff. It looks like Kill X could actually flesh out into a really meaty game. There's also a game called Project Boundary, which is a 360-degree first-person shooter in space, where you're, like, actually at a space shuttle orbiting the Earth in a big old spacesuit, actually kind of realistic, and then people are shooting one another with guns for some reason. Looks very nice, once again. And then there's Pervader. And Pervader just has me scratching my head, because apparently Sony Pictures is doing a CG movie based on it, and the game will tie in, and I don't fully understand it, because they didn't really show any gameplay. Apparently, it's some kind of apocalyptic situation, and you're hopping around between a lot of different professions, possibly trying to save your daughter. So at one moment, you're a policeman, and then you're a fireman, and then you're doing all sorts of things. You're a delivery man, and in the middle of this apocalyptic situation. I have no clue what's going on, but I see pink-haired ninjas, so that's a good sign. I'm really interested in Pervader, but I have no clue what I'm looking at. In some of these games, by the way, I think Project Boundary can be played without VR. Maybe Kill X can be played without VR. Some of these games will support non-VR play. Some of them will be VR only. But in the completely non-VR area, number one, we got Hardcore Mecha, which is a Cybernator Assault Suit Lano style game. The other one, and this is the one that's been turning heads a lot, is a game called Lost Soul Aside. I think it's made by a really small dev team, if not one guy. And it is a gorgeous-looking character action hack and slash about, like, this guy with, like, a flowing trench coat, and he's got these crystals surrounding him, and he can form those crystals into different weapons as he hacks and slashes up enemies. It looks really, really nice. People have been commenting on how it's what they wanted out of Final Fantasy 15. It reminds a lot of people of Final Fantasy 15 with the general way it looks. Honestly, it looks a little bit better than that. And supposedly, it's supposed to be coming to PS4. Yeah, supposedly it's made by one person, and it looks insanely impressive. Like, mind-shatteringly so. It's like, this is one of the most gorgeous-looking games I'm seeing on PS4, and it's made by, like, one dude. All the gameplay footage of it is looking just unbelievably impressive. And I can't wait to see how that turns out, because, yeah, that looks incredibly promising, and I really hope it turns out. I really hope it turns out, and it's good to see China really getting their foot in the door, trying to make some interesting games like this, and of course, make an actual VR game. Speaking of the PlayStation VR, though, today, of course, didn't show up on the release list. A game called Electronauts came out, which is made by Survios, makers of Raw Data and Sprint Vector, and they're going to also be making the upcoming PSVR boxing game Creed. And Electronauts is a music mixer in VR, where you get to be a VR DJ, and you remix songs by hitting things and throwing things and moving things around. There's a bunch of stuff to play with. The general report on it is that if you have absolutely no musical talent, but you really wish you did, that it's amazing, because it has stuff to help, like, sync things up to the beat to make everything always sound really good. And it's just, you have a lot of stuff to play with, a lot of ways to just remix tracks and just make things that seem cool, but it doesn't give quite enough freedom for full-on original music creation. I'm also hearing that the PlayStation VR release is a bit nerfed compared to the PC release, because the PC one actually let you, like, do co-op with another player, and I'm hearing something about the ability to record and play back your remixes was potentially something that was in the PC release that isn't in the PlayStation VR release. And once again, this annoys me, because Survios Interactive did the same thing with Raw Data. Raw Data on PC has multiplayer versus and co-op. It was very much built for multiplayer co-op, and when they ported it to PlayStation VR, they said, we might maybe patch the co-op in later. And this was very annoying, because Raw Data, I'm going to tell you right now, it's one of the best games on PlayStation VR, but it's annoying knowing that we paid the exact same amount of money as the PC people at launch. By the time it came to PSVR, it was actually cheaper on PC. And then we're missing a huge chunk of content that still hasn't been patched in. I'm very displeased with Survios about that. Sprint Vector was something that was actually released on PC and PSVR at the same time. It had a lot more parity. That one, at least they had multiplayer on the PSVR, but they said they were going to try to do crossplay, and I don't think they ever did. And so I have mixed feelings towards Survios. On one hand, they are going all in on VR as well, and they are making some of the best games in VR. But on the other hand, I feel that they are not working with the PS4 well enough. I'm actually pretty displeased with how badly Sprint Vector runs on PS4. The game runs at a smooth 60 FPS because it has to run at a smooth 60 FPS, but the other characters run at a lower frame rate, and it looks really, really jarring, and I'm like, come on, you couldn't get these guys running at a smooth frame rate. They're not particularly high poly count. And that game I really felt was them trying to make a game that would run well on PSVR. I think they might just be bad at optimizing things for PSVR. I don't know. But it's definitely very disappointing to see them once again snub the PSVR customers and not put in the same amount of effort. It really feels like they make the games for PC and then they just hastily try to slam them on PSVR and sort of just dump them there. And unless something's really screwed up, then they just kind of walk away. Very disappointing, because again, Survios is doing some of the best VR stuff, and even though I feel that PlayStation VR customers got screwed, Raw Data is still one of the best games on PlayStation VR. It's a weird situation. And I wish that they would put in more effort on their PSVR releases. Let's see. Moving on. Do I have anything? Yeah, I know that, actually, since this is turning into our PSVR section, a new trailer came out for Bow to Blood, which is some kind of airship combat game with a randomized world, and you can command little robot crewmates to help control your ship. I don't know, looks interesting. I think that'll be pretty fun to play. And yeah, it's some good times. Apparently Here They Lie is free with PlayStation Plus today, which is very nice to hear. I've been wanting to give that a shot, so I probably will. Guess Mortal Blitz is on sale too, and that's of course one that I'm always big on that one. But yeah, and then of course Pixel Rip 1989 came out. I still haven't had a chance to sit down with that one. And then End of the month is when Firewall Zero Hour comes out, which is what a lot of people are really excited for, because it looks to be like the serious tactical first-person shooter for PlayStation VR that a lot of people are really hoping for. Really, like, it kind of looks like I guess you'd say a VR Rainbow Six. And yeah, no, wow, I'm watching a trailer now. That's a very nice looking game. It looks like you'll be playing that co-op with a crew of people. Busting down doors, taking out terrorists, disarming bombs. Yeah, that looks very promising. I hope it has aim support. So yeah. All in all, I'm seeing some good things. I'm always a big proponent of VR. I think it's got a lot of potential. I wouldn't say to go out and buy it right now, but don't snub it just yet. Give it a minute. It's growing. It's getting there. I think there's some potential there. But yeah, it does still need to grow a bit more. It's in a weird situation. Because the nice thing with VR is that, unlike with other peripherals, this one's kind of universal. There's actually PC VR headsets, and you can port games between PC VR and PlayStation VR. There are plenty of games that have had simultaneous releases or ports from PSVR to PC and from PC to PSVR and so on. And you can port from Vive to Oculus and, once again, so on. And that's very important because what that means is that little indie developers can make, their experimental VR games on PC and then port them to PS4. And yeah. And that's really important because, of course, the big companies with the big money, they're afraid of VR. They're like, there aren't enough people that own VR headsets yet. We don't want to make anything AAA. The only AAA VR games is anything Sony is money-hatting right now. So, VR is being supported entirely by indie games. But there's like over 1,000 indie VR games on Steam. I make no guarantees that they're good. But indie developers are going in because VR is such a trippy, weird experience. And they want to experiment with it. They want to pioneer with it. If nothing else, they enjoy the VR experience enough on their own that they want to explore it themselves and share their creations with other people. And this is what's keeping VR afloat. And it's why I don't 100% recommend it. It's all indie games right now with very few exceptions. If you expect AAA VR games, there aren't going to be that many. You will be disappointed. But when it comes to content, there's tons. There is more content for VR than any other peripheral ever. Because, again, indie developers. There's well over 100 games on the PlayStation VR alone, which has the smallest, most curated store of them all. So, there's a lot of stuff coming out. There's a lot of experimentation. And basically what we're waiting on is that one breakout VR game that isn't VR chat. That one game that makes everyone go, I need a VR. I need a VR headset. And once that happens, once someone strikes gold, well, guess what? There's a bunch of, VR doesn't really have a killer app yet. But there's a bunch of, I've got a VR already, I may as well grab this kind of games out there. Those secondary ones, the ones you go, I may as well try something else in VR. Tons of those. And so once we get the VR killer app, once that happens and people start experimenting with all the other games that have come out, then the big publishers can finally take notice and go, oh, maybe we should develop a game of VR. Maybe that's the thing we should do, yeah. And then we start getting our AAA VR games, and then the platform really takes off. There's still a few hurdles we have to overcome, especially the fact that there's so much talk about motion sickness, which seems to only affect a small percentage of the population, and you can get over it if you try. It's just, honestly, like, I say we need to develop some kind of VR acclimation program to help people who get motion sick from VR gain their VR legs. Because there's no way to stop it, because every single person gets sick from different things in VR. The only way to beat it is to just spend a lot of time in VR. Likely in games where you don't move around, where you're stationary, or where you teleport. That's why you see all that teleport movement. That's a way to try to prevent motion sickness. Basically, you need to start with those stationary games and just spend a long time playing some stationary and teleport-based games, and then eventually you get to the point where you're used to the weirdness of VR and you're comfortable with moving around smoothly in it. Because it's extra weird because it's like inverse motion sickness, too. Because, yeah, like, the way motion sickness works is, you feel yourself moving, but you don't see the world around you moving, and that disconnect screws with you. With VR, it's the inverse. You see the world around you moving, but you don't feel yourself moving. It's inverse motion sickness. It's sickness motion. And that's a difficult thing to overcome, just because every single person experiences it differently. And for the record, a lot of people have claimed that taking motion sickness medicine, Dramamine, works, but egad, you do not want to have to take medicine every time you play a video game. That's a terrible idea. So people are figuring things out. Apparently, chewable ginger candy is one of the main things that really helps. Anyway, it's time for us to take another break. So here is Hurt Somebody by Noah Kahan featuring Julia Michaels here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you. That was Soulmate by Justin Timberlake here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave, diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., though that might be changing soonish. We will find out, because, fall semester starting and all that. Anyway, so let's talk about Border Break and Gundam Battle Operation 2. So yeah, the other day, it turned out that Border Break is now available on Japanese PSN. And hey, didn't just the other week I say that Gundam Battle Operation 2 was coming out? Sure enough, both Border Break and Gundam Battle Operation 2 are free-to-play, online, team-based mech combat games available on Japanese PSN. No US release for either of them, but they are both out. And last night I was like, screw it, let me go get my Japanese account fixed and download both of these. After all, they're free. And I haven't spent a lot of time with them, but after messing around a bit, I think I can give a pretty fair assessment. Now, it's actually funny how similar these two games are, because they're both third-person mecha combat games where you play team versus team, and they both involve going from base to base, conquering points until you take out the enemy base. And they're both, played online, they're free to play, and they came out at nearly the same time. But there are some slight differences. Gundam Battle Operation 2 is a successor to Gundam Battle Operation, which was a free-to-play PS3 game, and apparently there was a Gundam Battle Operation Next that came out on both PS3 and PS4, and I need to look into that one. I think that one might be better. Gundam Battle Operation 2 seems to be focused a bit on realism. It has a very, the characters look a lot more photographic-y looking. The mechs are dusty and dirty. It's very, it takes place the Universal Century. The idea is that it's supposed to be more realistic and simulation-y. And the big gimmick this time is that you can get out of your Gundam. You actually have a lightly customizable character, 5 different faces, 5 different hairstyles, 6 different hair colors and skin tones, that kind of a thing. You can, like, buy new outfits at the shop, though there's not a lot of choices there. Still, the point is that you can get out of your Gundam. And you have to do this. In order to conquer different base points, you need to get out of your Gundam. And when your Gundam is damaged, you need to find a safe place to get out, pull out your repair tool, and use that to repair your Gundam. And when you're on foot, you also have a gun. Like, I think you can even steal your opponent's Gundam, which is pretty darn cool. Obviously, the game is free to play, so there's a lot of cash shop stuff for buying mechs, but you do get a pretty hefty roster right at the start. You know, you get like 3 Zakus and a GM, I think. And yeah, that's certainly enough to start with. But if I had to describe Gundam Battle Operation, I would describe it in one word. Slow. Now, I know you're going to say, well, of course it's slow, it's a simulation, but it controls more like a third-person shooter. And the slowness here is unreasonable. See, every time you switch weapons, you have to wait for this bar to fill up before it actually lets you use the weapon. There's like a delay between weapon switching. And that's not a reload bar. Because even after that bar fills up, if you haven't reloaded that weapon, you have to wait for another bar to fill up for it to reload. And the reload times are ludicrously long, and it's made almost insulting because, like, you're sitting there waiting for the reload bar to fill, and about 2/3 of the way through, you'll see your Gundam actually grab the gun and, like, reload it, and then you still have to wait. And you're like, wait, you just reloaded it. Why did it take that long for you to reload this? Why have I been waiting on this bar? I'm going to guess that I probably have to spend real money to upgrade my parts to increase my reload speed. And that's a darn shame. Because of this, it means most of the time I spent playing Gundam Battle Operation 2, I only did like one game of it, was just sitting there waiting for my weapons to reload and trying desperately to make the most use of my bullets. It's a shame, too, because it looks like the melee combat is really good. I noticed that hitting different directions with your beam saber or heat axe equipped resulted in different moves. And when I was playing, I was on a team and I saw someone go out there and actually pull off a friggin' melee combo, knock down the enemy, pick up the body, and throw it. And I'm like, that is what I want to be doing. How do I do that? However, when I'm playing, I swing my sword once, and then I have to wait for my sword to reload. I'm not kidding. I mean, of course they have to make my sword reload. Otherwise, who would use guns in this game? Because the reload times are too stupidly long. Yeah, I'm not feeling this one. In fact, now that I know about Gundam Battle Operation Next, I'm going to go download that and see if that's better, because Gundam Battle Operation Next looks like a much faster, more arcadey game that tries to hit some kind of weird middle ground between Gundam Versus and Gundam Battle Operation. And though that kind of defeats the point of Gundam Battle Operation, because like the first one was more simulation-y too, I think it'll be a way more fun game. Border Break, on the other hand, this is a whole other story, and can I just say, finally? Border Break was released in Japanese arcades in 2009. 9 years ago, this game hit Japanese arcades. Only now is it getting a home port. Only now is Border Break available on consoles, on PlayStation 4, and it's strangely a free-to-play game. Maybe not too strangely. I actually think there's a full-price boxed release that probably gives you a bunch of bonus content and stuff to justify the price. But yeah, no, you can just download it for free, and it's very nice. Border Break is made by Sega. It's made by AM2, and it was very popular in Japanese arcades. It is a 10-on-10 team-based mech game, and you used a card to save your progress and level up your character and earn new parts to customize your robot. And of course, that's where the free-to-play thing gets you, because you play and you get points, and you can spend that to get loot boxes that give you a random part, or you can spend some real money to get more parts faster, that kind of thing. even still, I'm pretty pleased with what I see with Border Break. Number one, it looks way better than Gundam Battle Operation 2. It runs much smoother. It's just a much more nice and polished game. And number two, it's way faster. In fact, if I have any complaint, it's that the running animation of these mechs looks stupid because they never expect you to actually use their legs. You've got jet boosters on your back, and those jet boosters, they take you across the battlefield really fast. And as such, I don't think they put a lot of effort into the run animation on your mechs honestly makes them look like they're treading water. They don't look like they're moving fast enough. It's kind of goofy. But who cares? You've got jet boosters. There's like various catapults and things scattered around the stage. And yeah, you're trying to take these points, and when you get knocked out, you can respawn at these points. And again, it's 10 on 10, so you've got tons of mechs everywhere. Everyone's moving fast. And it's also class-based. Your weapon loadout is based on your class. Every time you get knocked out, you're allowed to change class. That tells you how many players of what classes are currently on the field, on your team. And so, yeah, you're constantly trying to pick the right class for the situation. Everyone's taking out everyone else super fast. The action is pretty darn fast-paced. And you get to actually customize your mechs. The only problem is, I can safely say I am way worse at Border Break than I am Gundam Battle Operation 2. We won in Gundam Battle Operation 2. I think I did a pretty good job in that. Border Break, I can't do anything. I'm having trouble against the computer. Which, that's one of the other nice things. This free-to-play game has a full-fledged story mode you can play. I mean, mind you, it's the same basic game type, just against weaker enemies and with some cutscenes thrown in the middle. But it has a story mode. It also has a co-op versus computer mode, which is what I intend to play when I get back home, because I'm like, yeah, that'll probably work out a bit better. Apparently, in the arcades, they didn't even let you play against other human opponents until you got to a certain rank. It was always co-op against the computer. And I'm like, you know what? I think I will enjoy that more because I am getting utterly clobbered by actual real players. And I'd like to earn some more points to get some more parts. By the way, you also get parts when you get enough experience to level up. Like, when you level up, it just gives you a pile of new parts. Well, one new part for each section. But still, you get the point. I want to explore this one a bit more, mostly because it has been in Japanese arcades for so long and been such a thing, and it's something I've never had a chance to play. I'm not 100% sure if I want to go all in on Border Break, but I want to mess around with it. Border Break, I think, has a lot more potential. And of course, the chance of this getting a US release are slim to nil. I don't know why. I will say the mechs in Border Break, thus far I haven't seen anything too exciting. They, despite the fact that all the parts look different, but they look the same. And that's more than a little bit of an issue there. Even still, between the two, Border Break clobbers Gundam Battle Operation by a massive, massive margin. And so, yeah, I'm definitely Team Border Break. I think it turned out pretty good. And again, it's not hard to make a Japanese PSN account if you want to mess around with this. It is free to play. That's pretty nice. Thus far, I don't feel like I'm being scammed yet. Hard to tell, though. I mean, it's in Japanese. Maybe I'm being scammed in Japanese. Can't tell. Good thing is, I don't have a credit card associated with my Japanese account. Couldn't if I wanted to. So, we all good there. Anyway, yeah, so that about sums up my Gundam Battle Operation 2 versus Border Break right there. Yeah, point to Border Break by a very large margin. So that means time for yet another break. And then we will be back with the last segment of GameBabble Live for the week. Until then, here is, oh boy. How High by Young Rising Suns, here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much. That was Ride or Die by The Knox featuring Foster the People, here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. I'm your host, Jell, and welcome back to GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m., although our time might be changing in the near future because, of course, the fall semester is starting, and trying for an externship at the zoo. We'll see how that goes down. No guarantees. Hopefully I get in. Fingers crossed. But we'll see. Anyway, though, if you want to keep updated, there is the GameBabble YouTube channel. Just go ahead, head over there. If I ever change dates and times, I will absolutely post a video there telling you what's going on with the show. Anyway, though, we are entering our final segment of the day, and we've pretty much covered a lot of the news, but there was one thing that I found really interesting at EVO, and that was a lot of the side tournaments, some of which were actually on the side stages, including the top 8 for Sailor Moon S on Super Nintendo, which was a very interesting pick. You wouldn't expect the Sailor Moon fighting game on Super Nintendo to show up at EVO on one of the side stages, but it did. And it shows a revolution that makes me very happy. Namely, thanks to rollback netcode, we are finding ways to play games on older systems online. I've mentioned this before, how Mednafen now allows people to play NES, Super NES, Master System, Genesis, TurboGrafx, PCFX, PS1, and now Sega Saturn games online over the internet. Admittedly, it's of questionable legality. You're supposed to actually own the games that you're playing, which, for the most part, I do. But it's interesting because, this is allowing people to play these older fighting games over the internet. Old games that, for the most part, people can't really play normally, because they weren't designed for online. But through these systems, we are able to play them over the internet, breaking down that barrier and allowing us to explore many of these games. See, the problem with fighting games is that, unfortunately, they are a popularity contest. Fighting games are a popularity contest, and they kind of have to be. Because, well, the point of fighting games is playing against other players, right? Well, if a fighting game isn't popular, there's no one for you to play against. And as such, more than quality or balance or how actually good a game is, all that really matters is if a game is popular. And as such, Capcom has kind of dominated the fighting game scene for the longest time. They make a lot of good fighters, but they're not the only ones. There are other companies that make other good fighting games, but many of them have been snubbed for years because they weren't Capcom, they weren't popular, and no one could really explore these games fully, because you couldn't find a scene. But now, we have the internet. We have emulators that use rollback netcode, and we have Discord to allow communities to come together and solidify and actually play these games against one another over the internet and see how they actually stand up. And that's resulting in some very interesting things, like Sailor Moon S showing up at EVO. I almost guarantee that wouldn't have happened without all of this, without these people being able to play the game against one another and explore it more and find out, hey, this game is actually shockingly well balanced, which is why they play S and not Super S. because Super S, the balance was kind of accidental. The sequel to Sailor Moon S, Sailor Moon Super S, they added one new character who was completely broken, and they buffed the outer Senshi and nerfed the inner Senshi because the outer Senshi are supposed to be the boss characters. Okay, that's fine for single player, except guess what? Now you've completely destroyed the balance of the game, and yeah, now the game's completely broken. But you go back to Sailor Moon S, and it wound up having more balance than people expected, and wound up being a surprisingly solid fighting game. And people never would have discovered this had it not been for the rollback netcode letting us play these games over the internet against one another and explore them, and Discord letting a community come together. One of the bigger and more amazing ones is JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Of course, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders is like airing on Toonami right now because Toonami's back. And it's gained a lot of popularity, but way back in the 90s, Capcom released a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Stardust Crusaders fighting game, and it was actually America's first taste of JoJo. We had no clue what JoJo's Bizarre Adventure was. The manga wasn't here, the anime wasn't here, nothing of it was released in America. Just some game called JoJo's Bizarre Adventure showed up in arcades. I remember there was one at the Tilt at Northwest Plaza. And I was like, what the heck is this game? It's a new fighter from Capcom, so it's probably good. Whoa, check it out. It has a story mode with an actual plot. And what are these crazy characters? And whoa, I press this stand button, and now there's like a spirit of a flaming chicken man floating behind me that I can command and can like stand back while he rushes forward and attacks my opponent. And whoa, what is this? This is such a crazy game. A lot of the Western love for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure comes from that fighting game. But unfortunately, that fighting game was relatively obscure for a while, and it was released on, there was a crappy home port on PS1, and then there was the Dreamcast version, and that was it. It got released on 360 and PS3, but of course that got delisted later, and the netcode was a little iffy on that one. But now, thanks to rollback netcode and Discord, and the fact that JoJo's is popular now, people are like, hey, how about we get together and play that JoJo fighting game again? How about we run weekly tournaments for it? How about we create tutorial videos and introduction videos to teach people how to play this? Let's get a community together. And, now JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a thing. People play it competitively now. And it's kind of turning it on its head as well, because for the longest time, I watched some Japanese competitive play, and it looked like Vanilla Ice was just overpowered. I mean, obviously you have to ban Pet Shop, and then Vanilla Ice just sort of dominates the game. But looking at this, it's looking like once you start exploring it more, there are more viable characters than just Vanilla Ice. There's a lot of Whole Horse players to the point where Whole Horse is broken is a meme, which apparently he's not, but a lot of people really like playing Whole Horse. So he's up there. There's a few Alessi players who wind up being pretty darn good. Some people are saying Debo is actually the best, but he's really hard to use. And then, of course, there are a lot of Jotaros, a lot of Shadow Dio and regular Dio. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, it's very, very interesting. Oh yeah, and a lot of Kakyoin. But it's very, very interesting seeing this game suddenly attempting to be played competitively, thanks to the power of the internet. And it also unites people from other countries. The netcode is good enough that we can play against people across the world, including France, which has a very interesting online scene. The French are very good at Windjammers and Breaker's Revenge. And they're getting there in Twinkle Star Sprites as well. And all of this makes me very happy, and it's interesting to see this have an effect. Because cripes, in the 90s, there were so many fighting games, hundreds, possibly thousands of them released, and most of them never got a chance. And now it's time for them to finally get that chance they never had. And so I want to see these games get explored in more depth. I want more people to play them. And above all else, where the heck is the Gundam Battle Assault 2 community? Because I know there's people who play that game seriously, but I've never seen an online tournament for it. Well, me and my friend, we were able to play it online with no lag. It's possible. Where's the Gundam Battle Assault 2 tournament? Because every video of people trying to play that game competitively has people in the comments saying, "Oh, these people aren't actually that good at Gundam Battle Assault 2." Fine, show me. I want to see it. I want to see high-level Gundam Battle Assault 2. Obviously, Big Zam is banned. But, the back row is banned, except for maybe Epion. That's still debatable. I want to see this. I want to see people playing this online. And I want to see an online tournament for it. I want to see tournaments for everything. I want to see these communities continue to band together and bring more of these fighting games, and not just fighting games, just all these competitive games to the forefront. I want to see what more we can do here, because there were so many good games so many good multiplayer games that just didn't get a chance to be explored in full detail because we didn't have the internet back then. But now that revolution is at hand. Anyway, that about wraps up the show for today. This has been GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs every Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. Time may be changing in the near future, but certainly not for next week, I don't think, unless I, get hired unless I get my externship at the zoo out of nowhere. So, unless that happens, please tune in next Tuesday from noon to 3 p.m. for more GameBabble Live, your video game news and information show, which airs here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. Here is Cold Water by Major Lazer featuring Justin Bieber and M. Here on 89.5 FM KCFV The Wave. Diverse music for your diverse mind. Thank you so much for listening. Hopefully see you next week.